program this morning is a kind of an update and review of the CEO program, since most of the audience is in the CEO program. I'll leave it to our experts to further explain that. But a high school entrepreneurial program, I think about 8 years old. I know I sat in on early meetings as it was put together, and at least from a personal standpoint, I think it's just one of the most exciting educational things that anybody's done for a while. And I know you guys are only in the first week, and somebody told me they already had senioritis, but anyway, so I would like to introduce then Bruce Sommer. Bruce is at University of Illinois Springfield, Director of Economic Development and Innovation, and we will go, certainly one of the key players in the beginning of all of this. And so at this time, I'd like to introduce Bruce Sommer.
Thanks, Bob, and thanks everyone. Member of the Citizens Club, a raise of hands, members of the Citizens Club in here. Yeah, when I first got back to town, there were two things I was very surprised about. I grew up here and was away for 20 years at least, and it was the Citizens Club and the actions that they were taking. So thank you very much, and I've really enjoyed the experience since I've been back. And the second thing was Pachakacha, that Mr. O'Shea here was leading. I hope we can get that back soon. So I thought that, you know, growing up in Springfield, I didn't think Springfield was that cool to have these two things, but it was. And then the other thing that I think, I started coming back here about 12 years ago, and the dean of the business school at the time asked me to co-teach an entrepreneurship class with him. And one of the things, I was on the East Coast and mainly in New Hampshire teaching, and one of the things I noticed about the students here is our visions of possibility were limited, right? Because we were seeing maybe past generations in front of us, kind of what they were doing around entrepreneurship and different things, whereas on the two coasts, we were doing, I think, a wider breadth of opportunities. And I thought, okay, let's look to the high school students, right? Let's get them a little bit earlier, so we open the curtain wider. And at the same time, Craig Linval from Effingham was doing a really cool program called CEO. It was in their county, described that way. So we teamed up with them to develop this program. Since then, the programs have evolved differently, recognizing from the leadership of the other founders and the board here today that we have resources in our community that other, especially smaller communities, didn't have. So although you see the CEO logo up there, it's still different from what other CEO programs are doing around the state and country, and I think Nabi here will talk to that a little bit. But I've been extremely humbled and proud of the development over the 8 years. I don't see anyone on the original team of Sangamon CEO. Is anyone in here that I'm not seeing here? And so thank you. And it was a struggle at first to even describe what it was. When we went to institutions, right, the school districts across the county, they were very hesitant on even understanding what we were talking about. And we finally got into District 186, and the first pitch, they loved it. And they said, we're in. And then all the other kind of schools followed, and it was an amazing feat after that. So what I wanted to describe a little bit today is just a little bit of that history, where we were, and then Nabi and Dr. Villegas will talk about where they are today and where they're going. Dan, if you could flip to the next slide, I appreciate it, thanks. I want to start out with, I think any time you do a certain endeavor, especially of this magnitude, you have to ask why. So why is this the solution, and to what problems are we trying to solve? And I think many of you in here, we've talked about this for at least 10 years, right? We saw a population decline, at least expected, I think, about 2012 from that census. But the main thing about that population were these people right in the front row, or excuse me, up in front here, right? It was our talent. Our young talent was leaving Springfield area, Sangamon County, maybe going to college outside the state and not returning. And we all know that that's bad for not only the economy, but for society in general. So those two things are probably the biggest motivations around that. And then as we dive into it a little bit more here, our job, we lost a good number of state jobs, right, to Chicago. I believe it started in the Blagojevich administration. And then something I think interesting about that third bullet under economic decline is this idea of tradable industries. So we have the state and we have the medical and some business services that are really predominant in our economy, but we don't, those are limited to our geographic area. And many of our companies here today do not trade outside of our geographic area or trade internationally. And so we have a lack of a diverse economy, right? We have these larger sectors. And what we need the most, in my mind, I'm very biased because I've been in this field for a long time, is first-generation entrepreneurs that create new businesses in a new economy. And so what better than these folks here, again, in our front row. So let's really throw resources, throw attention, and resources are networking resources that it makes it, if they're going to start a business, which we're going to encourage them to do, we're not going to force them, of course, but if they're going to start a business, Springfield is going to be the easier. Sangamon County is going to be the easiest place for them to do it. And again, Nabi will talk about how we do that and why that's so easy for them, those resources. But these are the problems we're trying to solve as we developed this program, the curricula that you're going to hear about, and hopefully we'll see some reasonable outcomes. We have anecdotal data on some outcomes that we're very proud of, but there's also opportunities here to improve those outcomes. Dan, sorry, one more slide, or a couple more, but thank you. So one other thing, and about 6 years ago, right? So we launched this about 8 years ago with our first class with 15 students, and you can see how many we have now. One of the things to improve outcomes, what we thought we needed was a place for them to come back to, right? If they go to college, hopefully they go to college here, and hopefully UIS, I'm biased, of course, but then when they do come back, we need a space where they can congregate around like-minded people. So we created the business incubator, Innovate Springfield, 6 years ago, the Community Foundation for the Land of Lincoln. And we've since, these are the data, the economic impact data that we collect every year. This is our latest. But we, again, want to make it easy for these students to come back, make Springfield their home, and launch businesses. So I've been proud of the impact of Innovate Springfield, and especially our 2020 jobs has almost doubled from the previous year with some really fast-growing companies. So 177 full-time jobs. Now, these are members, entrepreneurial members of Innovate Springfield. And if you look at data across other incubators, a lot of these exceed the average incubation process. In our revenues, I think taxable revenue, right? The more taxable revenue we grow here, the more services we can provide. The capital raise is probably a low number, and that makes sense, I think, for the type of businesses that are there. But I'm confident that will improve as we continue to go forward. If you could go to the next slide, thank you. And what we did 3 years ago is bring Innovate Springfield to the university. And not only did that allow us to get resources, intellectual resources like these two gentlemen here, but it allows us to reach beyond Springfield into Champaign and Chicago through the Illinois Innovation Network and Discovery Partners Institute. So we have what we call entrepreneurs in residence that are located in those other areas outside Springfield that have been in these digital spaces that are entrepreneurs here that may not have mentors locally. So that's the thing I think will continue to improve our economic impact at Innovate Springfield and allow, when we have this bigger network of mentors beyond Springfield, but have our members locate here, our community will benefit greatly. And I say those things because I want these students to hear the other resources that we'll talk about moving forward, but also what the impact has had from not only Sangamon CEO program, but things that came out of the Sangamon CEO program, like our business incubator. One more slide, I believe, and then I'm going to hand this over to Nabi. So this is, as many of you have probably heard, our incubation acceleration. We plan to utilize resources across the Illinois Innovation Network, which is a $15 million allocation out of 500 to build an innovation center. We contracted with EY, the former Ernst Young name, to do an economic impact study, and this is what they've come up with: a number of jobs, not only one time for construction, but for multiple years, 10 years down the line as we increase our incubation and other activities. So Bob had asked me to give an update on that, and I really appreciate the opportunity to share that. So now, I think if you could go to the next slide, our main event, right? So what is Sangamon CEO? So I told you a little history and the why we put this effort together as a community. And now I want to welcome the executive director of iVentured and the lead facilitator of the Sangamon CEO program to tell you what the heck this is, Nabi El-Haj.
Thank you all for being here. Bob, thanks for inviting us. I'm very excited I wore my nice shirt today. This is our 8th year, so we've been doing this for 8 years. The first year we did this, we had about 12 students in the class from very few schools. Today we have 47 students in the audience from 10 high schools. So our program, thanks. Our program continues to grow, and if we could, we would have more students in the classroom. We have great applications from wonderful students, but we do have a limit on how many students we can accept in our program. And hopefully, as we work through plans for the future, that we can have more students. And as you can see, we're having technical difficulties. So that's a lesson. Let's talk about that. I'm here to give you some update on what we've been doing since this year, what's new for us this year, and what we've been doing for the past 8 years. And then I'll pause for a second and run back there and try to fix this, and then I'll come back to the podium. But remind me to say it right here on live camera. So with the 47 students, thinking of our curriculum and how we wanted to evolve, initially when we started, it was more of let's get the students to meet business owners and leaders in the community. And as our program evolved, we started focusing more towards what kind of curriculum do we want to have in our classroom, because there were some skills that we were interested in those students having. And in addition to those skills, we knew as our recruiting was getting better and as the applicant pool was getting better, that we were receiving some tremendous talent from this community. And so we wanted to provide things that could foster this talent, help it grow, but also excite it when it looks around to Springfield as a place to potentially either stay or come back after they go out to college. So one of the things that we've done is we've worked closely with Lincoln Land, and we're able to acquire dual credit status. And so the students in this classroom receive 6 credit hours for the CO program, 3 credit hours for introduction to business, and other 3 credit hours for introduction to entrepreneurship. In addition to that, as businesses are evolving and industry is evolving, one of the main things we started seeing across campuses that was more and more introduction of data work into the coursework. And looking at our program, we thought that every entrepreneur would benefit from that knowledge. And so we started introducing more data work into our coursework as well, whether the ability to use software to kind of navigate the data, clean the data, collect the data, or the ability to interpret and show the data. So we started doing that. That's in addition to all the work that we do as far as ideation, creativity, and then I have an idea, what do I do next? And so those steps that we take on. We also continue to engage with class businesses. Many of you, I think, have seen the ice rink that we put out last year. The ice ice rink will come back this year as well. One of the premise of the CEO program is that students engage in creating a class business. In previous years, those class businesses were a one-day event, and I think it was COVID that inspired something that was greater than this. And the students last year were able to come up with this idea of an outdoor ice skating rink, and we were able to bring it to Springfield. And that was an exciting thing. We had over 3,000 people come out and use the business, but through it, the students learned valuable lessons on scheduling and customer service and customer experience and logistics. And I remember some days that, in the initial times where we lost the ice because it was getting shipped in the middle of COVID where logistics were a nightmare. And we actually had to track down the truck driver and call him and see where he is, because we didn't know where the ice was, and the company that shipped it to us had no idea either. So those were valuable lessons that as a class and as students we had to go through. This year, the students are fortunate enough that they don't have to go through this, but they do have to go through the operational side of running this business. So. I'm excited every year to meet the students, because every year the class has new talents and new skills, and they're very unique in their drive and their energy. And this year is no different. We've only been in the classroom for 5 years, but I'm happy to say I'm very happy with the energy I see in the classroom. The students are able to connect well. They're able to articulate well. We're having nice discussions in the classroom. We're able to connect, and you can see them out here in the public playing nice with each other, which is really, 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 really great. I don't know what slides I had up here, but if I were to guess, they were great ones. So. I hope that I summarized everything that were on the slides with this. Some data, this class is 47. In the past 7 years in total, we graduated 285 students from the CEO program. We have close to 95 investors from the community. Those are private businesses and some private donors. But in addition, we received something from the city and the county, Sangamon County. I have my slides here now. Let me see if I covered everything. Yeah, I did cover everything. Look at that. Yeah, we visit about 150 sites, and we get about 120 different speakers in the classroom. So the way the classroom is structured, we get 30 minutes of speakers. Those are business leaders, founders, CEOs, community leaders who come in and share their stories and connect with the students for about 30 minutes. And then the other hour in the classroom, because we meet every day from 7:30 to 9, the other hour is just us doing classwork and connecting as a team and working on projects and executing on those projects. We've launched about 150 early stage startups. Some of them are still around, some of them are not, some of them evolved to be something else. There were a couple businesses here in town that I will mention later. Just in comparison to other entrepreneurial education, if you look at colleges, if you were to take a college course, that's about 48 hours of entrepreneurship education. If you were to take a concentration in entrepreneurship, that's 144 hours. Our students meet for 250 hours during the year, and that's all entrepreneurship education. We talk about this a lot, and if you've been to our investor events, if you've been to our orientations, you hear me say that a lot. There are 5 pillars that we focus on in this classroom, and those are the main pillars that we believe if we can accomplish, we're successful in educating our students. And the first one is questioning, the ability to ask questions, proper questions. If I know how to ask questions, I know how to challenge certain assumptions. If I know how to challenge certain assumptions, I'm more likely to be a better entrepreneur, because I'm more likely to find different answers in what's presented to me. The second one is observation. Every entrepreneur needs to have the ability to observe their surrounding in a conscious way. We also talk about experimenting, having this ability to explore things, not be afraid to try things. Networking, as you see today, just being able to walk up to people, shake their hand, and tell a story, and creating that network. So in the future, it helps them building teams and finding teams to be part of, and lastly, the biggest one is association. How do I get these random ideas? How do I put them together and I create something new? So this ability to connect these things together, those are things that we focus on in the classroom. The other things are mainly general rules. Students have to attend. There's some dress code here or there. And communication is a big deal for us. So we know how to talk to people. We know how to present our ideas. We know how to connect with people. So that's all I have to say. I do know we have some alumni in the audience. Raise your hand. Camille, David. Hey. And we also have Emily on Zoom, which you don't see her anymore. But we will get her back on the screen so she can talk to you. So I'll pass this back to Bruce so he can guide us through the next steps.
If you want to go back and look at your computer, and it is asking for your password. Anyway,
we'll do that.
Thank you, Nabi. Nabi will be back up and lead some discussion with the students. But one of the things, I don't know if you heard it through Nabi, is what additionally drove us to kind of this curricula. How often, I'll ask the students this, how often are you in a classroom? Well, you're only been here about a week, right? Alumni, how often were you in a school classroom? The answer is never, right? And how many tests have you taken? 0, right? And your textbook is what? Yeah. So one of the things I had up there was that traditional education has been lagging, we think, kind of talent development or what industry is seeking. And even colleges now are seeking this experiential learning. There's a lot of good data around these outcomes. But yeah, we wanted to never get into 4 walls of an institution, always be active, engaging, and that's what entrepreneurs do, right? We often act first and think later, right? But academics think first, and maybe act, and then maybe act, right? And so what this class does and will be doing is action. It's actionable learning. And I've loved participating in this program from day one. I was an adjunct instructor at UIS. And UIS has been very involved with this from the beginning, and now so involved that Dr. Villegas is the chair of the program. So what I'd like to do is ask him to come up and say a few words what it means to him and why UIS. And he's the associate dean of the College of Business at UIS. So Dr. Jorge Villegas.
All right, I'm glad that I don't need to wear a mask while I talk, because I sound like Kenny, from South Park with a mask. So anyway, thank you so much for being here. I saw Brett from the board. Say hello, Brett. Anybody else from the board? No? Okay, thank you for being here. Just so you know a little bit more about why do we need a board for a class? Well, we're not just a class, right? We have to create this environment where students can take not only this class, but we also have a junior class. We also have all these other ideas to increase entrepreneurship. Probably what Bruce was saying and why I'm involved in this and why the college is involved in this program. Well, a couple of reasons. One is that we're trying to get away from the classroom, to have an impact in society. And of course, we have impact through our research, through our classes, but we want to be more, or a different type of impact. And this program is one of those programs that really have impact in the community. That's number one. The second thing that we believe is that you can go online and you can get the best marketing course for free right now. You won't get a credential if you just watch it for free, but the learning is there. I'll tell you that. The best teacher in marketing is not me necessarily. It's someone that is somewhere else, and a lot of materials available online right now for free. So as in academia, we're thinking, so what makes us different or better than whatever is out there? And the basic is experiential. we can give you an experience that the online course cannot give you. The fact that, and we're trying to move away from that you have a lecturer talking to you for 3 hours in a classroom, showing the PowerPoint, and the PowerPoint comes from a textbook, we are trying to get away from that. Not everybody does it, but we try to do that. Why? Because that's not our value. Our value is in creating experiences to our students, to go into internships, to bring people to our campus to talk to us, to do research with organizations. Just to give you an example, one local company, Hanson, is working with UIS in order to understand better phishing attempts to their through email. And students, faculty got involved in that project, and it was a wonderful experience for everybody. This is what the CEO program, and by the way, this was one course. Probably students work with this company for 10, 20 hours. You are out there in the community for how many hours a week? How many hours in a semester? How many hours in the whole year? This program has much more impact than anything that we can do in one course at UIS or in any other university. So that's why we're involved in this program. We believe that is vital for the community to create entrepreneurship and to ask you every week, how are you doing? How can we help you? How can you become more proficient in networking? If you have a great idea, how can we help you create that idea? That's pretty much what we're here for. That's what Nabi is here for, to help you grow, but also to help you understand all the opportunities that we have in this town. I know when you're raised and born in this town, you feel like, well, it's spring patch, right? You want to get out of here as soon as possible. My daughter wanted to do that, and she did, after all. Yet there's so much opportunity here. There's so much to do. We need your talent. And again, that's why UIS is involved in this. We need to grow the city, the central Illinois, the state, and of course the country. So anyway, I don't want to talk too much about anything. I can talk for hours about the program. Again, the board is always behind all of you. If you are a member of the community and you want to learn more about the board, how you can help us, please talk to me or to Nabi, and we'll be glad to help you understand better what we do. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Villegas. And UIS's support for this historically has been, I think, incredible. I'm biased again, but especially Jorge. I don't think he knew what he was getting into when he joined. and it's heavy work, and it's a lot of moving parts. As you can see, with almost 100 investors, all the activities, 144 hours? Is that? Yeah, out in the community of action. And there's just so many moving parts. Nabi does an incredible job organizing that, but the board, it's an active working board. So thank you, Brett and other board members and Jorge. Now we're going to move into the classroom, if you will, the actionable classroom. And we have some alumni here online that we'd love to hear from them. And just fair warning for everyone in the audience, we're going to be asking you questions. Sangamon CEO is about acting. And so just be ready as we turn this over to you for questions of the program. But first, who do we have here? Emily Briggs. Emily, welcome. Can you hear us?
Oh, I'm sure there's a little bit of a lag. But yes, I'm here with you all today. And as you can tell from my voice, I am one of those internationals who left after the CEO program. But it's lovely to be here with you today.
Where are you coming from, or where are you sitting right now, Emily?
I'm currently sitting in Amsterdam. I live and work here. But I also have some family in the UK, and obviously also some family in Springfield, which is why I completed high school there.
And what class were you a part of, and why did you choose Sangamon CEO, and then what has it done for you to date?
Yeah, so I was in the graduating class of 2018, so CEO class of 2017-2018. And for me, I chose CEO because I wanted an introduction to the business atmosphere. And from what I could see around me and from how I had like talked to people about it, business is something you need to experience, not something you can really teach from a textbook. And so obviously there was a standard class offered at my high school for business studies, but then somebody actually told me about CEO, which seemed infinitely more practical, and of course that piqued my interest even more, and that's what led to my application.
And then what do you think it has done for you to date? And how has it added to your education, and then where are you going to take it? And finally, be ready for this one, when are you coming back to Springfield?
All right, loaded question there. Yeah, so look, I've learned so many lessons from CEO, honestly. I would say the biggest ones that come to mind are, firstly, in order to learn new things, you need to unlearn some old patterns. And I think Nabi was a really, really great teacher there. And it's something that you can apply really to anything. And at least for me, it really made me relearn how I understood the world of business, how I understood small, medium enterprises, how I understood startups especially. And it's what first opened my eyes to the idea that it would be possible for me to come back and start a business someday. It's something that it really reduced this information asymmetry that students get when they don't feel like they can be a founder, or they don't necessarily feel like they have the sort of resources around them or something like that. So for me, it definitely changed my mindset there. And of course, having two incredibly good teachers who are also really good at giving advice about everything, it also really got me out of my comfort zone. I was quite an introverted person, never liked speaking. And I think that CEO was something that gave me a lot of those soft life skills that you can transfer absolutely anywhere. And I would say that that's also really helped with where I am today. So after CEO, I went to study business, funnily enough, from Rotterdam School of Management, which is in the Netherlands, an hour south of Amsterdam. And for me, this is what gave me CEO is what gave me the foundation for that. CEO is what made that degree come true for me as well, So it was a really, really nice basis to that. And when am I coming back to Springfield? Well, I definitely have some travels I want to do first, but eventually it is my plan to come back to the US and start a business. And maybe that'll be Springfield, maybe it'll be another small town, but I do hope to come back one day.
Well, thank you for being with us here. And thank you for the consideration for Springfield. One of the things I want to ask the audience here and the alumni is, what about Springfield, what can we do to change Springfield to make it more attractive to talent folks like you? So last question, and if you stick around, we appreciate it for other questions from the audience, but is there something you would like to see different in Springfield that would make it more attractive to come back to?
Honestly, I think it is just initiatives like CEO that are needed to start the cycle. And you see it in small towns now obviously it's bigger, but in small towns like even Portland, Oregon, and Charlotte in Carolina, all of those, they started with a very, very limited startup space. They started with very, very limited entrepreneurship, and then through incubators, through interacting with young people, getting them to stay, stopping a brain drain from happening, you're able to cultivate an environment that there's an inflection point where people actually want to come back based on the startups and the ecosystem that you've built. And I think for me, I do agree with you guys, and I believe there's a really, really solid ground that people need to come back and do that in Springfield. And I think for me, that's honestly, it sounds bad, but that's what I was missing. And I want to come back and change that one day. But I need experience to do that first, I need to figure out how to do it. And for me, then it's working on getting that information. And so programs like CEO are a start of where you can get information like that. So for me, what I'd like to see in Springfield is a collection of incubators and small startups, or, branches from bigger startups, maybe even from Chicago, coming in, where you get this really, really local vibe, which is really nice. Everybody knows everybody. and you're never going to get that in Chicago. But if you've started getting some of these really cool startups there as well, I think it would be a really, really cool thing.
Great. Thank you so much, Emily. And thanks again. Are you going to hang on for another 20 minutes?
Yeah, I'll be on.
Okay. Thank you very much. Nabi, would you like now to ask those similar questions maybe to our other alumni in the audience? Who wants to go first?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hello. So Camille was in the class last year, and what are you up to now? Wait.
I'm going to Lincoln Land for 2 years, and then I plan to transfer to the University of Michigan, and I'm studying finance. I just ended my internship at the Baker Group, which is an investment banking firm here in Springfield, and that gave me a lot of insight into what I actually want to do, which is investment banking. And then in November, I'm starting an internship at Northwestern Mutual, and I'll be working with like temporary and whole life insurance and like sitting down with people and giving them financial plans for life and stuff. I joined CEO because I've always like loved business. I thought it was really interesting. I started businesses when I was little. I would like make bracelets or whatever, and sell them to my friends, or just do like random things. And I always thought it was a really interesting program because I had friends in the CEO program like years before, and I thought, oh my gosh, this sounds so fun, and like it'll be really insightful. So I joined it and I loved it. And what was your other question? Oh, okay. I learned a lot about myself in this program. Like I said, I've always wanted to go into business, and I thought it was like an interesting thing. But through this program, I finally learned that like what I actually want to do in life. And so accounting sounds, really boring. It's just like numbers or whatever. But in this program, you'll learn that accounting is actually really fun, and all of like this finance and business stuff is really, really interesting. And you can do so much with this program. Yeah, it's really great. I loved it. Nabi is the best teacher, by the way. He's awesome.
Thanks, Camille. And David, where's David? David was in the program last year too. Bob, do you have a microphone? He does not. Yeah. So David, same questions to you. What's next for you, and what did you learn from the program?
Hi, I'm David. I was in Camille's grade, and I graduated last year. Next year, or I guess this year, in a few weeks, I'll be at Northwestern University in Evanston. And, sorry, what was the rest of your question to be?
What did you learn from the program?
I learned a lot, actually. Basically, I joined because I heard good things from my friends, and I heard there'd be breakfast. There was no breakfast this year, so I was scammed. But in the end, it was worth it because I ended up learning a ton. One of the things that you hear your parents say to you all the time, or like adults or whatever, is you can do anything, right? We hear that all the time, but it's so vague. What does it actually mean? And then this year, with CEO, we were able to like go out into the world. We built the ice rink. We raised, was it like $70,000 from local businesses?
Yep.
And then we made $50,000 just from running the ice rink. Like, who would have thought that would have been possible at the beginning with COVID, with businesses making less money and all of that? So just going out into the real world and learning that actually you can do anything. You can talk to these huge members of the Springfield community, and they're willing to help you. They're eager to help you. It's really good for your confidence, and it's like awesome to learn that you can kind of transfer that confidence anywhere else you want to go in life.
And what do you want to do after your freshman year?
After freshman year, I am still sort of looking into internships, definitely something in finance. I probably will come back to Springfield next summer, but after that, I might look for something near Chicago because it's close to my school.
Okay. Thank you, David. And then Navi's to your left. Navi was a CEO student 2015, 2016. So, yeah, you've been out in the world for a while. What have you been up to?
So currently, we own Toasty Subs
and I invest in real estate. So in the past 4 years, that's where it has took me. I'm also managing my parents' restaurant, which is Flavor of India. So yeah, that's what's going on in my life.
And what did you learn in the CEO program, and did any of it help you in those endeavors?
So the CEO program really helped me with like actually approaching people with opportunity, because you know, especially in real estate, that's what it takes, is like actually network of people that you can create that will help you generate more business.
Okay. Thank you, Navi. And then I think we want to ask the students some questions.
Yeah, and I forgot, Nabi, we forgot to add, one of the things, again, is getting these students back, right? And the Community Foundation was generous to support a program that we launched this year. It's a summer fellowship program. So we had CEO alums that were just graduated or in their senior years going into it, that we teamed them up with entrepreneurs from the community, people that didn't have either the know-how or the time to launch a business, or they already had a business, but they wanted to launch a new product, so or in a new market. So those are the types of programs I think coming down the line that will be expanding. It was a pilot program this year, and it worked very well. So these young, talented people, that's another way we're going to bring them back into the community. We want to open it up to the audience before we leave. So Bob, if you want to, ask for questions, but then again, I'm going to call on a couple of you students too to say similar things. But yes.
Bruce, can you tell us the companies that have actually come out of your program from the alums?
Yeah, I can mention a few from the first couple years, and many of them, there's, I think, 2 that are related to this area, but then there are others that are, Andrew did 3 businesses now. He was in our first class, and he's still not back into this area. And we have photography, health and beauty. Go ahead, Nabi,
Yeah, and we have a student from the 2017 class, Dana Kopecki, just opened a dance studio on MacArthur. It's called Dana's Dance Studio. And we also have a beauty salon on the west side. Allison Hudspeth from 2015-2016 class went to cosmetology school, came back, worked at Willow and Birch, and then just last year opened her own shop on the west side of town. So we're starting to see those students who either go and come back, or like Navi, who just stay and invest in businesses that either exist or start new businesses that are here in town.
And Lisa, that's a great question. We need to do a better job tracking that. My guess, Nabi, is about 25% of the students have either started a business or continue to operate businesses now from the class. It'd be great to put a list of all those up there. Other questions? And we've been here before. The CEO program has been to the Citizens Club before, and even the Pachakacha, remember when they all pitched their ideas in that 6-minute format? That was great. I think one of the reasons, Bob, one thing we bring down, the students bring down to the average age of the Citizens Club meetings, right? But we need these folks to get not only engage in business, but in civic activities too. So I love this opportunity. Other questions?
Yeah.
David.
This is kind of not a question, but maybe just more of a word to the students as well. So my name is David Lee, and I was in your guys' position. I'm 31 years old and graduated Springfield High in 08. So I love that all you guys are here, and such a shout out to Bruce and Nabi for this program. It's so awesome. But I was in your guys' shoes and just kind of wanted to say just a quick thing. I didn't think I would come back to Springfield either. I work for a Fortune 200 medical device company, and that actually brought me back to Springfield. And there's so much more opportunity here than you realize, and I'm glad that you guys are getting to experience that. And I would encourage you guys to continue to push and to dream, because we need more of that in Springfield. And honestly, when Nabi was talking about the purpose of the program, I think we need to challenge our community to also expand its knowledge of where we can go as a community. So, I'm doing some things in the community here, and just being back in Springfield is also a huge advantage as well. So think about that in your future endeavors, and just good luck to all you guys.
Thank you very much for that, David. Other questions?
I'm Fletcher Farrar with the Illinois Times. One of the things I've always admired about Sangamon CEO is the way you bridge the generation gap. And sometimes when Citizens Club members walk into a room of younger people, they turn the other way. You guys turn toward us, give us a smile, say hello, introduce yourselves, and ask us a question. So that's rare. We need to learn to do that on both sides, but I think that is one of the things that you've learned in the first week already of Sangamon CEO.
Thank you for that. Let me add to that. I hardly ever have come to a classroom where I didn't learn something, right? We older folks here, we come in with our experiences that are pretty narrow at times, right? And the questions that they ask and the actions they take change that perspective because we're so used to that. And this was the easiest thing I've ever pitched. I've started a few businesses of my own and pitched investors. And when I pitched this program to people, it was so easy. And then people like you ask, what more can we do? And to me, it's what David just said, encourage, welcome, mentor if you get the opportunity, but just open our minds to their ideas and encourage them. One of the things entrepreneurs need to be successful, it's very interesting. What do you think? One of the top things. Anyone want to take a stab? Yeah. Confidence, yeah. It's even beyond confidence. Yeah, what else? Anyone else? Yeah. Communication skills, absolutely. What else? Yeah. Creativity. Yeah. Yes. Creativity? Well, be creative and add another one. Determination. Leadership, yeah. Very good, yes. Yes, absolutely. And I'll combine that a little naivety, right? If you ask entrepreneurs, if I knew now what I did, I would never have done it. But thank goodness I did. And so it's hard, and you need all those things, all that action. And so to get through those hard times, they need our support. They need support of their networks. But yeah, we need to open our minds. We need that drive, that passion, that encouragement, and then this network of people that will help us, guide us. Yeah, Paul.
Yeah, I'm not one of the newer members of the community. Actually been around for a while. But when David Lee stands up and speaks, he really speaks to the issue that so many of us are working towards, and that is the younger community, but the vibrant community. And we have organizations that are still working towards that and continuing to work for that. The Downtown Springfield Incorporated DSI and the Chamber and the other organizations that have been around, but they know what's happening. They're keeping an eye on things. And one of the programs that they sponsored within the last few weeks was about upper story redevelopment of projects and buildings in the downtown area. I see some people here, like Chris and so forth and others, that are continuing to work for the enhancement of the physical facilities that we can. And if we can work together with this group and other groups such as this, we know that the growth can occur, and it will come with a lot of satisfaction for everyone involved. It's a win-win, what I would see.
Thank you very much, Paul. And Paul has been an incredible supporter of this program from day one, so thank you for all that. So, by the way, the audience, did you notice I just threw out some random question and what the reaction was to that? These students engage, and they've only been here a week, right? They just act. And Jorge and I know through college students who half of them are sleeping at times, especially early morning ones, and how hard it is to get them engaged. Here, you just toss that out and they just consume it. And it's just an amazing experience. Bob, did you want to, we have further questions from the audience, but I did want to also call on a couple of students. Yeah.
John. Good morning, I'm John Allen. Is there any chance that any of us could audit this?
So that's one thing that after the first year, they said, we're CEO for adults. Where can we come in? And
Right.
I was just going to say, one of the things you can do is come into the classroom. Nabi, you want to answer that question, sir?
Yeah, so our classroom is, we do not start at noon, but you're welcome to come to our classroom. You can see our meeting space on our website. So we post what businesses we're going to be visiting. And then if you let us know that you have interest in coming to our class, then we'll accommodate you and you're welcome to come and sit in our classroom.
Pre-COVID, we had our first couple years, 90 different visits. So out of 144 days, we're almost in a different place every day. Now, COVID has changed that and the size of the class, a lot of people can't accommodate 50-some students. But yeah, it's open. It's always been open and encouraged to join. There was someone in the back. Yeah, Beverly, Dr. Bunch.
I'd like to hear from the students what ideas you have that we as a community could work towards to make this a more attractive place for you to want to come back to or to stay.
That's my favorite question. Yes, thank you.
To answer your question, something that really helped me fall in love with Springfield, about like 2 years ago, I was like, oh, I'm going to move out. I'm never going to come back. And I'm from Rochester, so I'm like, oh, this small town. I'm made for a big city, you know, all that naivety. And something that really helped me just fall in love with Springfield, because now I'm like, oh, I love it here. It's so fun. There's so much to do. There's so many cool people. And that was really just exploring really what it had to offer and getting involved in the city. And so what helped me was I was a part of Rep the City downtown. So we got to go to a bunch of different businesses, meet the owners. They would host events for us. And we got to meet a lot of cool people who are taking initiative in the city and meet a lot of young people who are still doing cool things in Springfield and just showing that it is a cool city, because I think a lot of us were like, oh, Chicago's super cool, oh, New York's cool, Los Angeles is cool, all those like trendy cities. But really, Springfield has so many cool places that are awesome and that feel just like a huge city. So that's a part of it, is just getting into the city. So more programs like that, or maybe more extended programs. I know if the Rep the City program was longer, I would definitely still do it. Or if they expanded it, that was something that I really loved. So yeah.
Can we hear other answers to that? And if you could, tell us what school you're from, too. And the students do have to get back to school. So one more minute. Okay.
My name is Asen. I'm from Glenwood High School. I feel like the problem today, especially with all the high school kids, is we've really become desensitized to what Springfield has to offer. We've got the capital of the entire state 10 minutes away from us. We've got all of the Abraham Lincoln memorials down the street, but we've grown up with it. So to us, it's just a normality. And I feel like a lot of that stuff is what draws people into Springfield. And I feel like it's also what kicks us out, because we're so used to what is already here that we want to explore the new world. So I feel like if we can try to push what we have more to the eyes of the high schoolers, I feel like it would definitely get a lot more people to stay or come back in the future.
Can we do one more answer to that? Any students? Okay. And please let us know where school you're from.
Yeah, hi, I'm Adeline. I'm from Pleasant Plains. And just to build off what he said, yeah, it's this idea that we don't really value, because we grew up in it, the common and like familiarity of Springfield. And I think with programs like CEO, by getting high school students out there and meeting Springfield CEOs, we become immersed in a whole new area of Springfield that we never before had seen. And because we see that, I think, you know, it's something that is new, that we haven't experienced before. And I think that's what can draw a lot of people back to Springfield and really redefine what they value about it.
Great, thank you. Nabi? Before you do that, I want to thank, again, Bob, the Citizens Club, for letting us have this opportunity to present to you. Dr. Villegas, thank you again for joining and all you've done. And now I'm going to turn it over to Nabi.
Yes, students just stand up to get recognized. thank you very much for being here today and participating in this public forum. You may head back to school, and I will see you next week.